It's time for Skate Date.
Ba-da-ba.
Episode Quattro.
I know. Almost a whole month.
I can't believe it. I feel like it's simultaneously been like so short and also like 10 years.
I know. We're doing pretty good though. We got over 1,000 downloads already.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody. It means so much to us to think that you just will listen to our ramblings.
Yeah, so welcome to Skate Date.
Skate Date is a podcast made by two roller skaters who fell in love, who talk about the real world.
And the real world.
And lots of other things. So today's episode is really special to both of us, and it's like a real hit-home episode. It's about body dysmorphia and society's beauty standards, and so we have a little trigger warning for you.
Yes, this episode may and most likely will include things like eating disorders.
And triggers that come along with body dysmorphia, eating, and all of the things that fall under that. So
get your tissues out, people. We might shed a tear.
Shed a tear in our little shed of a garage.
Let's get this episode rolling.
Let's do it. And let's start out with our fake ads. Remember, businesses, organizations, companies, anyone who wants to sell anything, we will sell your product for you in this little segment. And it won't be fake, obviously, when you become a person who is an ad. Okay. All right. So, fake ads. Here we go.
Hey, babe. I just got us tickets for Fat Camp.
Fat Camp? Babe, I thought you were body positive.
Not that kind of Fat Camp, silly. Lizzo's Fat Camp.
Oh, boy! At Lizzo's Fat Camp, enjoy activities like
Pool Twerking 101.
Shoot down your self-doubt in archery.
In our cafeteria, you can have your cake and eat it too.
Join our group therapy where we discuss
Riot, not diet.
Loving your enjoyable squish.
How to realize you're not just a snack, you're the whole buffet. Lizzo's Fat Camp.
Get your tickets today. They're free. So get your ticket.
I'm really sad that Lizzo's Fat Camp's not a real thing.
I know, now I really want to go to Lizzo's Fat Camp.
Man.
We did such a good job with that fake ad.
I know. Maybe I'll just finally cosplay Lizzo and start my own Fat Camp.
I think that's a great idea. It could be like Lizzo's Fat Camp, but like Courtney Chef's Fat Camp.
Can't wait for post-COVID.
On roller skates. I'm stoked. All right, well, let's jump right into the real world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in the real world, we're going to talk about...
We are talking about our own personal journeys with self-love and body positivity, how we got here,
and how up society's beauty standard is for everyone.
And we're digging a little deeper to try to realize, when did this start? And how did it start? When does society work their little way into our brains and let us know that we're not enough?
Like, if I'm a baby and I'm too chubby of a baby.
It's cute when you're a baby, and then all of a sudden it's a problem.
Yeah, when does it become a problem?
Yeah, when they're like, that's not your baby fat anymore, that's just your fat, so now we're gonna send you to real Fat Camp.
Now we hate it.
Go society.
It sucks.
Endless cycle.
I hate it. Okay, so why don't you start out?
No, why don't you start out, babe?
Okay, so I have hated my body in the past for years and years and years and years. I grew up, and when I was growing up, I was a ballet dancer, And when I was in ballet and other various dance classes that you take alongside of ballet when you start, I was told that I was fat and that I was never going to be successful as a ballerina because I was fat and because I had big boobs. And so because of that, and because I loved dance so much, I started starving myself. And really, it tumbled down and it went bad really quick. And I remember, I couldn't even look in the mirror without crying. Like, I would look in the mirror and just stare at myself and think about how ugly I was and how horrible I was. And I would spend so much time in the bathroom, whether it was me like standing on a scale or me trying to throw up or at that time in my life, I was also inflicting other types of self-harm. And so I was so miserable and nothing was ever enough. And I just remember logging my food. And I remember 1 year for my New Year's resolution, it was to eat as little as possible for the entire month of January. And the amount of things that I had eaten could fit on one page. And someone found it. I don't remember if my mom found it or my teacher or mentor found it. And I got in huge trouble. And not that that stopped anything. That was just really what transitioned me from anorexia into bulimia. Because bulimia for me was easier to hide and it was manageable. And so then I moved from being anorexic. I was anorexic for I think probably 3 or 4 years. And me and my best friend had a competition. So we would compete to see who could lose the most weight. And
that's fun.
Yeah. And it was so toxic and so unhealthy.
And how old were you?
I was 11, 12.
Wow.
It started for me in 5th grade. And then progressively got worse through middle school. And I became bulimic in 9th or 10th grade. So I was anorexic for that whole time through middle school. Had a bunch of other problems too, but that was my main thing. And then I was bulimic after that. And at that point I had given up on dance because I had been told I wasn't good enough and I would never be good enough. And then I remember when I was in high school, one of the dances, one of the formals that we had, so me and my date actually had a competition to see who could lose the most inches before the formal. And I ate a cantaloupe.
Oh my God.
For a month. It was just stupid. But yeah, so anyway, so not that this is a list of all the horrible things that I did eating disorder wise, but eating disorders have been in my life for a really, really long time and continued to be in my life throughout my adult years. And I would say, only recently have I really completely stopped having an eating disorder. I even used my allergies as an excuse for a long time. My allergy, I have a really sensitive stomach and so I throw up easily and I attribute a lot of that to being bulimic for over 10 years. But when I first discovered that I had allergies and stuff, I would just be oh, I have allergies and
that's how some people go vegan.
Yeah.
And they use that as an excuse so that way whenever people, especially if they're anorexic, because then when they go out to eat with people, they have an excuse for why they're not eating.
Yeah, I was vegan for a year.
So
because of that exact thing. Yeah. So I would say that is my relationship with eating disorders, and my relationship with my body and food has always been a tumultuous one. And I think that to this day, I think that one of the reasons why I struggle so much with feeding myself is because those years that you're supposed to learn about, my God, why do I feel like crying? In those years when you're supposed to learn about how to make food and you're packing your lunch or you're making dinner with your family, I never did that.
Yeah.
Because I had such a bad relationship with food. And so to this day, I literally don't know how to cook food for myself. And I don't know how to put together a nutritious meal. And so it's just, it really is something that impacts your life for the long run.
Yeah. Do you feel like ballet was the first thing that made you feel like your body wasn't good enough?
Yeah, that was, I think, for the first time when I recognized that my body was an issue. Mm-hmm. And I think that that really stuck with me, you know, like because you're in a room and you're in a leotard and tights and you're looking in a mirror and maybe you had issues with your body before, maybe you didn't, but then as soon as your dance instructor says like, hey, you're not good enough to do this activity that you love because of the size of your body, like, that's when you start thinking like, oh, there's something wrong with me. I didn't know there was something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember I used to get ice cream before dance class or after dance class with my best friend. Yeah. And I was like, this is great. Like, I had like a Gatorade and some ice cream, like like a Snickers bar ice cream and some red Gatorade, which is hilarious because I still love those today. And she was like, maybe you should cut down on those. Like, you should start exercising outside of dance class and like all this sort of stuff. And yeah, I don't know. Just like before that,
it's like your talent doesn't really matter. Yeah. It's the size.
And so I've always felt like, you know, when it comes to dance specifically, that I'm embarrassed to talk about it because, I don't know, like deep down, I think that I was never a good dancer because of my size.
Interesting.
Yeah.
For me, I think it started more, for me, it was more like, this is something I can control. And it wasn't necessarily about losing weight in the beginning. For me, it was like, I didn't realize till I started understanding how eating disorders worked when I got older, that that's what caused it to start. Because I never really understood why I started binge eating to like emotionally fulfilled. And then I would purge afterwards. But the purging came later. I was just like a binge eater. And I was burning the weight pretty fast. I've always been pretty big, hefty. I was always the thick person. But the problem with that is I'm the age where being slim thick was not attractive. You were supposed to be like rail thin. Mm-hmm. And that's what was sexy. That's what was cute. So even though if I look back at the size I was when I first started like all these unhealthy habits, I would probably be like an idolized body today's standards, which is what sucks. And it's just like, dang, I just always tell people like no one will ever be happy. Now everyone strives to be slim thick, but give it another couple years and everyone's going to want to starve themselves again. Yeah, so it's like crazy. But I remember as a child, I was like the first one to hit puberty, the first one to wear a bra. So I like was already like getting shapes that a woman had. So people always thought I was older. I already felt like something was different. Like, oh, like why do I have to wear this bra? Or like being called in the house to put it on and being like, okay, what's wrong with my body? And then just having to really embrace that I was different than all the other girls. And it already sucks. I was already like the only black kid growing up. So it was like, oh, like that's her and she has a booty on her. Like everyone just knew it. Like they would make little comments, and which when I think about it, like I was 10 years old. That was not appropriate. Yeah. But even when I would go to my aunt's house, like they would compare me and my cousin that was like 9 months older than me, and it'd always be like, oh, who's getting curvier? Like who's the tallest, like who's wearing a bra first, and there's always a lot of body comparisons. So I felt like I looked to her a lot to see how her body looked, to see what mine should look like. And then moving to Compton and leaving all my friends right before 7th grade, and that's really when like, you know, middle school is just horrible. The worst. That's when you're like, your hormones are raging.
Just the peak of everything.
Yeah, you're like, okay, now I'm like recognizing like sexual feelings and like now it's like all these things are feeling.
Like, I aware of the whole
acne,
world.
Like everything. It was
you start smelling bad.
Yeah, you're like, what's going on? Like you're full fledged in your period now. Like,
so bad.
Like everything just sucks. And I was a nerd and I had like really bad acne, and I don't know, my parents were both alcoholics and my dad started doing drugs again. I didn't even have a bedroom. I was sleeping on a couch. Did that all the way through high school for the most part. And I remember just feeling like, how is this my life? Like, we came from suburbia. So everything felt like it was just like new and scary, and I didn't understand anything. And I was into self-harm as well. That started like right after I moved. So I think like when I started controlling the way I ate. Like, that felt like this is the one thing I can control that's happening in my life. So I've always had a weird relationship with food, and I didn't realize till I started hanging out with, like, other people. And it was that I was never allowed to just, like, open the fridge and eat something. Or, like, get in the cabinet and, like, get a snack. Like, it was really weird. I don't know if it's because we grew up poor, so, like, food was limited, or just my dad being, like, so controlling even to this day, like, possessive over certain things. So I always felt like food was something that was like I had to ask for, I had to have permission for, and then it was given to me, and when I was supposed to eat, I had to eat everything I was given. So I think that also accounts to why I was a binge eater, because I would come home from school having a bad day, and I would, like, rush to the fridge with the refrigerator door, like, wide open, and I would just start eating spoonfuls of random things so that they wouldn't know I was eating. So that also encouraged me becoming, like, a secretive eater, which went into my 20s. Like, I would, like, have a bad day, get a Little Caesars pizza, eat it in my car, hide the box in my trunk, and then go in the house afraid that, like, they'll know. And it was so weird, but I got, like, this sick, like, pleasure, like, those little sensor tingles. Like, oh, I did that, and then I'd go in the house and throw up, or I wouldn't eat for the rest of the week. I'd be like, well, you had that pizza that you binge ate, so now you're not going to eat. And it was just really bad, like, but in high school, after a while, like, I just started realizing I was getting bigger to where I had to start wearing plus size. And I was only a size 15, but I was like, oh no, like, something's wrong. And it was when my dad said, like, are you sure you want to eat that, to me one day? And then he said, be careful. He just said that. And I was like, what do you mean? He's all, you're starting to get a little big. He said straight out. And that was the first time, like,
Nope.
Yeah, I realized, like, oh, like, I'm getting fat. So then I started to just stop eating. That was the first time, like, I was like, okay. And I slowed down on the binge eating and just kind of stopped. And then other traumas had happened to me, and I discovered drugs. And that's when, I didn't even smoke weed. And it was right after my 17th birthday. And my first girlfriend, who was now my ex but my best friend, she started doing meth. And I fell straight into being a tweaker and lost so much weight doing that. And even though I looked dead, I thought, oh, I can, like, sniff this magical fairy dust and feel like the most beautiful person, the most powerful person. And I didn't need to eat. I wasn't hungry. I lost so much weight. Like, I got down to a size 8 eventually. And I remember thinking, like, it's okay because I'm finally beautiful, even though I was, like, dying inside. All just to be skinny. And it just shouldn't be that way. And it's just, like, really sad because a lot of people feel they have to look a certain way, and they'll do anything they can to get that way because they think, like, they'll finally be happy when they're that size, but you aren't, unfortunately. Yeah. But I don't know, it's up and down. Like, I've had, like, crazy crash diets where it's like, I heard Beyonce got skinny by the Beyonce diet, and it was like water, cayenne pepper, and
Yep. I did the cabbage soup diet, where I literally just made cabbage soup and, like, ate that for like weeks on end.
Oh my gosh. Well, when I lived with my roommates, I had, like, stacks and stacks of, like, water bottles, and I was like, I'm just gonna live off of water. And I think it was like a week in of having no food, and everyone at the casino I worked at was like, you look so good. Because here's the thing, people, if you're fat and you have an eating disorder, people are going to congratulate you. They're like, no way, this is just amazing. You could literally, I literally told so many people that I was not eating, and they thought that was such a good thing that I was doing. Like, if I would have been skinny, they would have been like, what's wrong? Eat. But just because I was, like, in a larger body, smaller than I am now, they were, like, patting me on the back. And I remember being a weekend of not eating any food, and I noticed a water bottle was missing from my sack, and I lost my roommates. I was like, who took one of my water bottles, blah, blah. And they were like, whoa, calm down. Like, what's going on? And then my friend's dad, who was crashing on our couch, was like, oh, sorry, I took one. And I got so pissed. And then I told my friend, I cried, and I was like, that's my food! And, like, then she realized, like, whoa, something's
there's
wrong.
something going
like,
on.
you need to eat. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, I'm on a liquid diet. And, like, these are things I would do in and out, like.
Yeah, and, like, all of the media, the popular media, I mean, when I was growing up, I'm sure with you too, it was just like, you need to take this diet, you need to do that diet, and
well, every commercial break.
It's like, take this flat tummy tea.
Yeah, like, I was obsessed with, like, 17 magazine and Teen magazine. And then,
I had an Herbalife stint.
I don't know, it's just, like, so much. And it's never, like, eat better, like, intuitive. Now people are talking about, like, intuitive eating and exercising, like, health at every size. They're trying now, but we didn't grow up with that.
And also, I think it's hard because, like, for example, intuitive eating, for someone who has, I would say I still have body dysmorphia, like, I'm trying to deal with it and it's better. Intuitive eating isn't a thing for me.
Yeah.
Like, my brain is like,
and if you don't know, like, I still kind of just figured this out in the last year. Like, intuitive eating is supposed to be like, oh, if you're feeling a sluggish, then choose a healthier thing to eat. Like, choose, like, you want energy, then eat some nuts that have protein or this. But I feel like you really have to know about food and diet to understand, and not everyone does. And this can also go into the fact that if you grew up poor, or of, like, a certain ethnicity, like, with a certain culture, like, you're not gonna know these things, so.
I knew whatever was put in front of me, I ate.
Yeah.
And the faster I ate it, the more likely I would get seconds.
Yeah. And that's why, like, diabetes and heart problems, all these things, like, run rampant in, like, our communities. Like, you're part Mexican and I'm half black, so it's like, I look at the people and the generations ahead of me, and they all have these issues with diabetes on my black side, and that's because of all the soul food and all the things. Like, we weren't really raised on, like, the right way to eat or whatever. But I don't know, I just feel like even though society is slowly changing, and, like, you have all these beauty campaigns starting to use plus size models and trying to, like, even, like, years ago when they put a size limit on models, like, high fashion models, because they were like, this isn't, like, we can't have these models that are obviously suffering from eating disorders model, because then other people strive to be them. But they're still photoshopping people to be super, like, with unattainable bodies and
they're still photoshopping, like, parts of fat bodies out. Like, they're still photoshopping cellulite out. They're still photoshopping, like, roles, you know, and stuff like that, and that's.
But even with, like, all the things they're trying to do, like, kids are still growing up, especially, like, femmes, like, knowing, like, with these eating disorders still, like, I just spoke to a high school this week, and one of the girls was straight up crying and saying, like, she didn't know what to do because she would waist train and she would stop eating and she was, like, dieting and doing all these things because she was tired of being the fattest person in all her classes. And it just shows me that, like, it's still going. The cycle's still going. These people are still growing up thinking that something's wrong with them because of their body, and no one's even questioning about, like, their health or, like, how they feel. That's not why they're exercising. That's not why they're trying to change their diet. They just want to be smaller.
Yeah, I mean, this problem is so complex and multi-layered, you know, because even when any person who's fat goes to the doctor, like, the first reaction is, oh, well, lose some weight. Like, that will help solve whatever issue it is you have. And you're like, I have a cold, you bitch. Like, what?
Like, I'm depressed. It's because you're fat. You're depressed because you're fat.
Yeah, and it's like, no, okay. I'm depressed because it's 2020. What?
Yeah, I went to the gynecologist and thought, like, okay, I'm going. They weigh me because, you know, they weigh you no matter what kind of doctor you go to, just to get your everything taken down. And I go into the office. She does her little exam. And then she starts asking me about, she's like, so at your job, on your lunch breaks, maybe you should start, instead of eating, you should go for a walk for that 30 minutes. And I was like, first of all,
What?
you're telling me not to eat. That's just,
Yeah, what?
don't
That's
you want to
not-
eat? You could go for a
that's-
walk
no.
on your 30-minute break, right? And I was like, actually, I'm like on my feet at work. Like, I'm a barista. Like, I'm constantly on my feet. And then she's like, oh, okay. Well, you know, it's really important to get at least 30 minutes of exercise a day. And I was like, oh yeah, like I'm in roller derby. And that was back when I had first started skating, and I was skating pretty often. And she was like, "Oh, you roller skate? You're in a sport?" Like, she was like boggled. Like, she was like, "What do I do with this information?"
She was that meme.
So then she goes into her little folder and starts pulling out like all this like nutritional stuff. She's like, "Oh, so it must be the eating thing, because if she's active, like she must be eating so much." And it's like, I don't know. There could be a million things wrong with me because I haven't gotten everything tested. I could have a thyroid problem for all I know. I don't know. Like, I'm fat.
Yeah,
like, I get it. But she didn't check anything else. Like, it was just like, and I was like, aren't you here to like make sure my vagina is healthy?
Yeah, this is a gyno appointment.
Like,
what the hell?
when did this turn into now you're
What?
my dietitian? Like, I was really confused. She spent more time asking me about my eating habits and how active I was than telling me the things I went to pay her for. And I
So
was
annoying.
like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. And I think, so like, if you had to think, like, where does this come from? Like, little kids, like, when is this happening and where is it coming from?
I know, sometimes I would just want to blame hormones, but I think sometimes it can happen even before then. It can be the first time someone gets bullied. It could be the first time someone, I don't know.
Yeah, so I think that it has to do with the media, you know? Like,
Definitely, but I think, yeah, on more of a subconscious level, for sure, as a kid, you're noticing that there's no one that's of a bigger size on TV or in these magazines. And if they are, they're always the punch joke or the punchline.
yeah.
So I do see that, like, that would affect you too. But I think you don't really see it. You don't really notice that. Okay, when you think about being a kid, your self-reflection isn't that strong yet.
No, you're looking for opinions on the world based on your parents and the people around you. So it's generational. Like, it's literally passed down from person to person. So these societal beauty standards that have been unattainable, like, they're going to continue to be passed down, and the only way we can stop it from happening is breaking that cycle.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, yeah, the media doesn't help, and yeah, there's things that we're picking up subconsciously as we're little, but it's not until that person in your family or someone that's a bully calls you out, because you're not, I've seen, there's plenty of happy fat kids running around that don't even know that they're fat, because I'm saying, like, you don't really look at yourself like that yet.
Yeah.
When you're like a kid, you're just having fun, you're playing, you're chunky and funky, you don't even know.
You don't even
You're
care.
like, oh, I don't even notice that we're like getting my clothes in the, like, I'm wearing adult sizes and I'm a
You're
kid.
just like, la-di-da.
Yeah, you're not really thinking like, oh, I don't look like that. Like, I'm a little bigger. It doesn't really click until someone points it out that you are getting bigger, or like, oh, you, like, makes fun of you for like what you're doing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I was talking more about, like, where does that bully get that idea?
Yeah.
Like, where does
From
the person...
the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where it's like, not only are we supposed to teach people like, hey, you need to love yourself and your body's enough, we need to teach people to stop policing other people's bodies. And a lot of times those people policing other people's bodies are the ones that are getting policed themselves, and that's why they're doing it. It's because their own pain.
Yeah. It's projection.
Yeah,
like 90%
exactly.
of the time.
I don't know. It just sucks. I feel like we already know by middle school you're full of self-hate.
Yeah, you're destroyed by middle school.
Yeah, someone had messaged me when I had talked about this on my Instagram, and someone said that they were 11 the first time they felt that way, and I was like,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's about
You're
the
like,
age.
you hit those double digits. There we go.
There you go. When I was 10, I got my ears pierced. When I was 11, I got my fresh dose of self-hatred.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely something I feel like I see myself as like a body positive queen in the skate community, but as much as I know I've changed a lot of people's lives that have like literally just told me straight up, like, thank you. So many people tell me that, and I'm like so grateful, and I think that's so great that I have a platform to be able to spread the word of self-love and body positivity. But what about the real world? Like, I got the real world covered. We're getting there. But there's so many other people that need this message. So I feel like I just need to know how to get to their little ears or brains. And, like, I need people, give me your children. Let me tell them.
I feel like you just become a motivational speaker. You know, you go to different high schools and middle schools and elementary schools, and you talk about self-love and body positivity and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's such an upward battle, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like you can talk to someone as much as you can, and it might get to some people. I think you can plant the seeds, but it really takes the community to water it.
Years.
It's years.
It's not just like, and it's dismantling a system as well. It's like doing it on an individual level, but then it's also like making that difference. Like, one of my best friends just had a baby. And do I want that baby to think that their body and everything about them is perfect and amazing and beautiful? Yes, I do. Am I going to make sure that that kid knows that growing up? Hell yeah, I am. And yeah, that may be just one kid, but that's my opportunity to make a difference.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's why I always say, like, that's why I became a teacher, because I feel like when I'm a teacher, I can directly impact people's lives.
Definitely. I don't know. It's like I feel like it's never enough.
It's never enough. No, it's not enough.
It's like, how, I don't know. I just want everyone to do their job. Like, I just want it to be like, oh my gosh, what was that movie with, like, the kid? Was it called Pass It On? No.
I don't remember.
But basically, it's like you do a good deed, and then that person has to do a good deed. Oh, I think it's called Pay It Forward, with that like Haley Osment kid or whatever his name is from Sixth Sense. And I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't, I need to make you watch it. It's heartbreaking. I haven't watched it since I was younger. But the whole idea is, so like, if I do something that inspires you to love yourself, then you should reach out to someone that's putting themselves down and inspire them to love themselves. How do we do that?
Make it a TikTok challenge.
Make it a TikTok challenge. Oh my gosh, I know, right? And just, it's like a chain letter, but TikTok.
Yeah, it's like an email chain letter, but it's TikTok.
Yeah, I just want, like, the future to be like people of all sizes, and no one really cares what size they are, and they can get cute clothes that actually fit and look cute. And like, I don't know, there's so many things. Like, I feel like we're in this spot of our life where things like, yeah, the world's falling apart, but also when I grew up, I didn't know what like non-binary was, and I didn't know fat people could wear crop tops, and like Black Lives Matter wasn't a thing. So I feel like we're getting there, and we haven't even peaked. We're just still gaining all this knowledge of like so many different marginalized people, and like no one even talked about marginalized bodies or intersectionality.
People celebrated Columbus Day still.
Yeah. And
like, we never talked about indigenous nations the way they're talked about now, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm hopeful for where we're going. I just feel like as long as we keep talking about these things and educating people and
keep doing the work.
Do the work on yourself, and then do the work also on others. Like, don't be a bully, and don't let bullies affect you.
And like, help the young people in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, teach them too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That feels like the real world to me.
Yeah.
Should we leave them on something positive?
I know. I feel like
okay, how did you... Okay, so we talked... I feel like we definitely gave the chunk of our stories that's like the downer.
Yeah.
But how do you feel like you have gotten to the place where you're at now with your body and your view of yourself and all of that?
I said the patriarchy, and I stopped giving a no.
Okay, so how did you do that?
It was a long, hard road out of hell. It started when I actually got sober. And once I got sober, I actually had gained a lot of weight. And that, like, made me go on my last relapses of, like, crash dieting and not, and, like, ups and downs, and then really hitting rock bottom. One of the last times I crash dieted and was, like, going to the gym hardcore and lost a bunch of weight, and it was just, like, no bueno. At the same time, I was finding, like, fat idols. And I think, like, finding Tess Holiday, she was Tess Munster back then, was the first large body I saw being, like, powerful, like, half naked in this pose, like, looking like a fat queen, and it was on Tumblr, and I remember thinking, like, holy crap, like, who is this person? Like, how dare she be that fat and that powerful and that beautiful, and why can't I be her? Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, just, like, taking in so many images of her, and, like, being like saving them on my computer and being like, oh my gosh, like wanting to dress like her. I would see her in certain outfits, so I would look for outfits like that. It was like probably the last person I ever fangirled over. Like, I even met her in person the first time was at Ink and Iron, and I ended up meeting her, like, 5 times throughout my life. Yeah. And I always felt like, oh my god, it's her. Like, like, oh my gosh, she's so cool. And I think, like, that shifted my thinking, because I was like, wait, if I can think she's enough, and she's beautiful, and she's powerful, why don't I feel that way about myself? So I started shifting the way and realizing, like, no, like, I can wear shorts without tights. Like, I can wear a short skirt if I want to. Like, why am I layering? Like, why am I hiding my body? And then, like, also realizing, like, I always loved fashion anyways. And being bigger, they're gonna stare at me anyways. So I might as well give them something cute to look at, you know? So I think the more I started dressing cute, the more I felt cute too. So I think fashion helped a lot with it, and like exploring like different hair colors and having fun with it. And also when people like bullied me, it's just like I didn't let it harsh my vibe. Like, I just kept going. Like, and I'd always, to this day, I'll usually open a conversation with someone that bullies me instead of shutting them down or blocking them.
You're really good at that, yeah.
I just try to open a conversation, and, like, bullies usually have no facts. They're just, like, spewing hatred, and they don't know what to do when you're like, oh, tell me more about this.
Yeah, they don't, yeah.
And they're like, oh, thank you so much for your opinion. Have a great day.
They're not interested in the conversation.
They're like, don't be nice. You're supposed to cry because you're fat.
Yeah. You're fat, so you must hate yourself.
Yeah, so it was definitely a journey, and not every day is going to be amazing. I still have days where I'm just like, ugh, why? But usually I have more days where I'm down about my mental self than my physical self, to be honest. Yeah. So that's my next journey.
That is your next journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it is like a process that I'm obviously still on. I think for me, it started when I joined roller derby, because I feel like even up until that point, definitely when I was competing in speech and debate, it was really bad. Like, I was in a really poor spot before I went to grad school. And then I feel like almost in grad school, I was like too busy to focus on how ugly I felt like I was. Like, I was just like stressing. And then, you know, like I joined roller derby, and I, for the first time, was in, because I kind of like straight up avoided any physical activity after I quit dance. Like, I decided that I wasn't going to do anything else. And I think I was scared of it, because I think I was scared that like anything that I would try and do that they would be like, no, you can't do that. Like, you're too fat or whatever. And so speech and debate, and like I found alternative things that weren't physical. And then roller derby was the first thing that I joined that was physical. And when I joined it, they were just like, yeah, we love everyone here. And it just felt so welcoming, and it felt like they weren't trying to say you can't do this because of your body. They were trying to say, let's find ways to use your body the way it is and use that for your own power.
Yep, it was like an advantage on the track.
Yeah, and teaching me that, I think, really started to shift my viewpoint, and that really started my process. And I think, like, obviously being around you and then dating you, like, I feel like that helped me a lot too, because I also was in a series of not the greatest relationships where my body wasn't treasured at all. And so like being with you, I feel like that not only
Aw,
inspired me, but like helps me to love myself too.
So you're saying with every kiss, you're stealing my body positivity powers.
And also your soul.
Well, I knew that. That's why I'm pretty much soulless at the moment.
Yes.
So, what do you think about people that say that by wearing what you want and posting about it and talking about how beautiful and amazing and powerful your fat body is glorifying obesity?
I think that that's the biggest load of bull I've ever heard. I think that you're saying that because you don't know how to accept someone else living in their power.
Right?
You just don't know what to do, so you're taking that phrase and throwing it at us.
Or that they're so concerned about your health.
It's like, no, you're not. What? You're concerned about my health? Why? Like, be concerned about your own health.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And at the end of the day, it's all bull. I could post a photo where I'm eating pizza and donuts and whatever, and people would be like, oh no, like that's why you're so big and blah blah. And if a skinny girl posts the same thing, they're like, that's hot.
It's literally
she's letting
just,
go.
Yeah, just like a bias against fat people.
It's not about health because
it's
you
not
don't.
at all.
Yeah, because but you know, every day you're fat and you eat in public, it's a mother riot.
Yeah, it's a riot.
It's a protest to society
Riot,
standards.
not diet.
Riot, not diet.
Love your enjoyable squish.
But yes, everyone, if you're on the journey still to self-love and body positivity, just keep going.
Which I think we all are,
We
you know,
all
like
are.
we're consistently still there.
Yeah, but a lot of people are on different levels,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's hard because they'll see people and they want to be at that height that, like, I think, like, I'm at a section, then you're at a section,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some people that are like, ooh, judging people for what they wear or afraid to wear shorts still.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many different levels. There's people that might be listening that are still struggling with their eating disorders.
Totally.
All of those layers, like wherever you are, is valid.
Mm-hmm.
And just keep doing the work. Just keep trying.
Keep doing it. Keep pushing.
Feel free to message one of us or both of us, like if you need just someone to listen, because we've been where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And some days we still are where you are.
Remember that, like, each day is its own victory, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if you have one day where you totally up and you're like, well, I binged and then I purged and I looked in the mirror and I was like, F you, I hate you. And then that's okay. Just move on to the next day and try and do a little bit better and find ways to love yourself that next day. And believe me, there are days when I feel sick to my stomach because I have eaten too much and I have to force myself to sit on that couch and not go to the bathroom.
Yep.
And just be like, no, you did this to yourself. You are sitting on that couch. You are not allowed to go to the bathroom and make yourself throw up right now.
Yep.
Because that is a step back. Like, that is harmful to yourself.
Yep.
But, like, I don't always win that battle, you know?
Yep.
And I think that's the reality of it. The reality of it is that body dysmorphia, it gets smaller, but it never completely goes away.
Exactly.
And so just know that, like, you have to find coping mechanisms to help you get through. Like, the same thing that works for me is not going to work for Shove, is not necessarily going to work for you.
Basically, it is not a destination.
It is not a destination. It's
Yep.
just finding ways to enjoy your life and to experience life to the fullest in the body that you are in.
Yes. So, we left you with some food for thought there.
From the real world, we're rolling into the wheel world.
Oh, are we rolling into the wheel world with a mask on, though?
Let's hope so. Today we're going to talk about all the people that are... Let's talk about masks and roller skating. Do you have any thoughts about masks and roller skating, babe?
Are you not, like, mask lesbians? Because I think they're hot.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about masks like the kind that you put on your face to stop you from spreading or getting
okay. I'm glad you kept going because I was like, well, I could put a mask on my face too. Oh, that kind of mask.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So this is why you bought me all those button-ups.
Yes, and those joggers, babe. Okay, so I think masks should definitely be worn. There has been one time I went to the skate park and I did not wear my mask, and it was because there was like 5 other people, and we were all like extremely far from one another, and you were one of those people, and someone in our COVID circle was one. But even then, like, as soon as I felt unsafe, I was like, nope, let's go. So I know, like, I'm not completely innocent, but at the same time, knowing that I can say there was one moment at a skate park that I did not do that, I am very proud. And I think the question you have to ask yourself, if someone came to you today and was like, you have COVID, we need a list of everyone you were around the last week, would you be proud of what you wrote down? How many names would be on that list?
Yeah, and like especially like how many times were you wearing a mask or not wearing a mask? I'm having a hard time with this because I love everyone in the skate community so much. And it feels to me, and I know that it is not this, it feels like a personal attack when I see people not wearing masks. Because I just think, like, the more we don't wear masks,
the longer
we have to stay inside, and this is just going to continue getting worse and worse, and I am sick. I love you, babe. I am sick of being in the same 4 walls with the same 3 people. Like, I am over it.
Babe, I am an introvert. I was loving this. This was not affecting me at all. The last month, I have been breaking to where I'm just like, I need to get away. I literally, babe, I have not told you this, but sometimes I play out plots in my head of how I could escape and get away for a few days. And I'm like, that's crazy. Because yes, I love you. I love Bowie. I love my life. But sometimes I'm just like, I feel like it's so much that now also, because I'm an introvert, I was used to being completely alone in the house. And even if we're in separate rooms, just knowing that there's other people around, I'm just like, I am not alone, and I love being alone. Yeah. And then I'm like plotting and it's all imaginary, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, when's regular life gonna happen? When will I be able to run around the house naked again? When little things.
And just the more things that I hear that's like, oh, you know, you will still be teaching online next semester. Like, and then thinking about next summer. And then I'm like, oh my God, next fall. And I just like, I am going to lose my mind if I have to stay sitting in front of my computer.
And then you go on Instagram and you see a bunch of skaters hanging out at like meetups and stuff, and then half the people have masks on.
And people messaging us like, when are you going to host a rollout? And I'm like, not anytime soon.
When there's not a pandemic?
Like, and it just seems like this, like, weird bubble of, like, we don't think that COVID is going to impact us.
Just because, what is it? Just because you're over...
Just because you're over the pandemic doesn't mean that the pandemic is over. I don't know. I'm struggling with it. Because I'm struggling with it. Because it's hard for me. I've had to stay off social media a lot more recently.
I feel like I have to be aware. Like, sometimes I have to remind myself, like, oh, some people that I follow live in places where COVID is not as big of a thing as it is for us in California right now, especially living in LA. But with that being said, still just wear a mask and, like, keep distances. Because, like, even though you have a mask on, do you know that someone can still sneeze and it can go into your eye? People are forgetting that so there's other ways.
There are many orifices on your body.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know someone that did get COVID and they wore their mask all the time. And they were, like, hyper vigilant of washing their hands and doing everything they could. Still got COVID.
Yeah, scary.
So you can go, like, and I know there's so many people in the skate community that I fucking can't believe still think COVID is not fucking real. What is wrong with you?
And I think that there is an issue because there's a lot of people who are not high risk within the community. And there are a lot of people us and a few other people, you know, who are high risk.
Yep.
And it sucks because it's like that conversation is not being had anymore. Like, I feel like the consideration, I feel bad because there are people that I would love to go skating with that keep asking me to go skate, but I literally don't feel safe.
I know there's so many times people are like, oh, let's go skate. And I always have to say, like, and I feel like, how am I still having to tell you no because COVID? And people are just like, oh, it's not a big deal now. And people think, well, I don't know anyone that got it, so it doesn't matter. Like, I trust everyone. Like, oh, the skate community is so magical that none of us can get COVID. Like, the problem is you might have it and not even have any symptoms.
Yeah, you might be asymptomatic and passing it along to someone who could really, really be hurt by it, or could pass it along to someone else who could really be hurt by it.
So it's like, yeah, I have friends that I know might even listen to this and feel a little offended right now. And I will never judge you fully for you want to have a rollout. You can have a rollout. But I just hope that you are actually enforcing people wearing masks, because the problem is you never know how many people are going to show up to this rollout. You can't control everyone that's going to wear a mask.
Yeah.
And what weighs on my shoulders is I would never want to have a rollout and then find out that there is an outbreak of COVID that happened at that rollout.
Or that someone died because of your
Yeah, and that, exactly, that there was a chain reaction because I wanted to have fun on my skates with a group of people, which, yes, I would love to have a rollout. Do you know how excited I was to have part 2 of the Body Positive rollout? Like, we had almost 200 people last year. Mm-hmm. And I had to make the executive decision to say that people's lives are more important than a rollout.
Yeah.
So if you want to go this a rollout that's happening, you know what? You're an adult. You make your own choice. Wear a fucking mask. Don't be hugging everyone. Just, like, if you don't feel safe, go away. That's your own decision. But honestly, like, I literally want to be caught dead at one.
Yeah. And also, like, it's really time that you remember that not you, but like we need to remember to respect other people, because, and not be like out here judging people who don't want to get COVID. Like, I feel like I've gotten so many like, oh, you're not going to do that, or oh, you're not willing to do this, or oh, you're still at home, or oh, you're doing this to yourself, or oh, you're depressed because you haven't like gone and done anything. And it's like, no, I'm literally protecting myself and my family. So we need to respect people's choices to be safe, to stay home.
Yeah, like, I'm not gonna go have a patio brunch just for the hell of it. There's things like the moments I've taken where it is going out in the world, like going to a protest in a pandemic. Do you know how hard that was? Like, I literally, like, cried at the first one. Because I was just like, first of all, so many people. I did not feel safe. And knowing that, like, I'm trying to fight for being Black. And also, I'm surviving being Black, but I'm risking my life to die of a pandemic right now to fight for being Black. What kind of up shit is that?
So fucked
and I went to 2 protests in one day. And then we went to another protest later. And then I felt guilty because it's like, I'm proud of what I did, but at the same time, like, I wasn't going to spend any excess amount of time there because it's still a pandemic, and it sucks that we have to fight for racial rights and during a pandemic. But it's just like, those are the times I chose to go out in the world. But I can count like on 5 times on our hands, besides going grocery shopping, that we've been around people.
Yeah, we're never around people.
And it's like the same 10 people, like the people that work at Moxie I've been around without a mask, and then my Derby wives and our friend Jessie and like our friend Holland and her husband. It's like, those are the same people, and I choose people that I know are like nurses that are very like home caregivers.
My friend who just had a baby.
Yeah, friend that had a baby. If they're a tattoo artist, like people that are like, my career and my job counts on me being healthy, or like they have children that they're also like have asthma or high risk, so they know they have to be super careful. Those are the people I choose to have in my COVID circle, our COVID circle. And There's times, like, even if Rebel has someone over that I personally feel like I don't know and don't know if I can trust, I'm just gonna stay away. And I think that has to be honored. I feel like no one should be shunned for making the choice of, like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna skate with you or be around you, even in my backyard, because you have to ask yourself, like, who are you? And, like, are you careful? Because I don't know who's out there that is a Karen or lives with a Karen, or like someone that literally thinks this is fake and never wears a mask. Like, those people are out there. And there's so many people in the skate community. I've met skaters that think the earth is flat. So I know there's skaters out there that think the pandemic is not real.
You've met skaters who think that?
Yes, they were in a local skate group.
Oh my God. That is not real. The earth is not flat.
But I'm just saying, all these people that are conspiracy theorists, they also skate. So that's why I don't think a rollout would be, that's why I wouldn't host one. That's why I wouldn't go to one. I risked it when it was for fighting for Black Lives Matter and for protesting, for marching the streets. Like, that is when I was like, this is worth it. Like, this is worth risking my life for.
And even then, it was like a big deal.
Yeah. And it was just, so I don't know. Like, I don't know how y'all feel about it. I did like a whole survey and it was kind of split. A lot of people were like, I think it's fine if you just stay 6 feet away and keep your mask on. And some people were like, a lot of people were like, as long as you're 6 feet apart. Like, what?
No.
What?
I also think that, like, there's a difference between the rollouts that we hold and the rollouts that happen in other places. Mm-hmm. Because the rollouts that we hold are the rollouts that happen in Long Beach. Are way more populated than rollouts in other places. So I definitely think that that's something to take into consideration.
One thing I would say, though, before you go to one of these meetups or rollouts, if you feel like you really have to, look to see what these groups have been doing. Like, a lot of people post on their Instagrams, like, little videos and stuff. Do you see masks? Do you see people social distancing? And then make the choice. Don't just, like, show up to something and being like, this is gonna be fine. And I think it's really big, like, what you're talking about, babe. Like, there's still a pandemic, and it's just, like, people are bored. Like, people are just, like, over it. Like, people were doing for the most part, a lot of people I know, we're not going to skate parks. I just felt like people were not going to skate parks. People weren't hosting meetups, and people were only doing meetups if it was for Black Lives Matter. Yet here we are, like, a month or two later, and now it's, like, okay to have meetups and rollouts together. Yeah. Like, everyone's just out at restaurants and bars and stuff. Well, not bars. Bars are still shut down in LA anyways, but people are out on patios having drinks and eating food and having, like, all these things again. And I'm just like, wait, so, like, remember when you were like, is there still a pandemic? Like, what's going on? Like, even the news isn't talking about it the way they were.
Yeah, are we flattening the curve? Like, what's happening? Like, I don't know. I need to know. And I read the news.
I know, and, like, I know other countries are preparing for their second wave, and we're still in our first wave.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't want to talk about this anymore. So
it's frustrating.
And I'm frustrated. And if this comes across like we're mad at you, we're not mad at you. We're
mad at the
situation. Like, the situation sucks, and we're trying to do our best to make it better.
And people aren't really talking about it.
So we're talking about it.
And I've had people, like, I feel like when I do mention it in a post, like, I've done it, like, twice, there'll be some people who are like, thank you, because no one's really talking about this, especially influencers.
Which I think is a problem. Why are people not talking about it? There's, like, some weird, like, shame to talk about it.
I think people just have, like, a lot of guilt because, like, they know, like, people are like, well, I don't want to hang out with my friends and I'm doing it, like, blah, blah, so they feel weird. I think people just feel weird talking about it because then they're going to have to really identify that, hello, they should not be doing this.
Yeah, but it sucks, but we're here.
Just remember that masks are not this miracle thing that's, like, makes you 100%.
Yeah, you're not, like, wearing COVID. A full, like, gear.
Yeah, like, maybe if you have
everything.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Anyways, okay.
That was that.
That's the wheel world. All right, it's time for 2 Girls, 1 Pop. Bowie, come here. Bowie's here. It's time for 2 Girls, 1 Pub.
All right.
It's a quick 2 girls, 1 pup today because we talked a lot about everything else and there's not much to update you about with Bowie.
Bowie really freaking cost us a lot of money in this last week.
A lot of money.
Had to whip that old credit card out because Bowie had an ear infection. It's looking better now.
Yeah, it's a lot better now. We had him in a cone of shame.
Poor guy. And then, like, also, remember how we were talking about how he looked like he was in a drive-by because he had these bullet holes?
Yeah.
So the vet was like, oh, that looks like ringworm.
And so we freaked out because ringworm, oh my god.
Yeah, like, he sleeps in our bed and we're like, but I remember thinking, like, that's a little weird because we for sure
we would have had it. Because he's all up on me all the time.
All the time. He's, like, sleeps on our pillows. Like, okay, I know some people think that's gross. I don't care. Every dog I've had in my life has slept in my bed.
Also, we're trash people, so it's okay.
I'm a trash panda for life. So, my friend who's a nurse was like, no, you for sure would have had ringworm. And sure enough, the test came back. And he doesn't.
Yay!
Also, we were told that he probably had a thyroid problem the first time last year.
Because he sleeps like a cat all the time.
He's so tired. Y'all see it if you follow us on Instagram. He just lays around all day.
He literally is like, I'm going to get up and find another place to sleep.
He got his senior dog blood work done, and there is literally nothing wrong with him. He is just lazy.
He's just lazy. And we were like, why does he pant so much? And they were like, that's a personality trait.
Yeah, it's just his personality. He's basically a sloth.
He's just loud. He's like, I'm lazy, sloth. I'm loud, and I have an ear infection.
He's a sloth and a pig.
Yes.
Put together. Like,
in a cute little stuffed animal body.
Yeah, so that's what's going on with Bowie. He is healthy.
He's great.
He's great.
He's happy to be here, and he smells really bad. So
yes.
I feel like that's a recurring theme.
So if you're someone that would like to pay for one of those ads so I can pay off Bowie's vet bill.
That'd be sick.
That'd be great.
Yeah. That was a big bill.
Yeah.
We love you so much.
They told us Frenchies would be expensive, but we had to adopt him anyways, and I wouldn't take you back for the world.
Not for the world.
Thanks, Bowie, for visiting.
Thanks for visiting. Thanks for hanging out in 2 girls, 1 pup.
Go back to sleep under the table.
Let's move on to our final segment, which is Dear Shovel. All right, next up is our Dear Shovel section, where we answer your questions in a not so great way, but sometimes good advice comes out of it. Okay.
Sometimes.
Dear Shovel, Amber here. I just watched the video mentioned in last episode about the 10 different skaters, and y'all, I'm an anxious skater, but I don't want to be. Do you guys have any tips or tricks on how to be more comfortable and less anxious to not only skate, but to be around other better skaters? Love y'all, Amber. First off, Amber, thank you so much for writing into our podcast.
Yes.
We very much so appreciate you. And I think it's not bad to be the anxious skater, so there are ways to cope with it.
Yeah, from times of, like, going to 2 skate parks in one day when you're by yourself and you had to drive away before even getting out of your car each time because you saw there were other people there. It was a little too people-y and it was really scary and your heart started beating onto your chest and your hands felt sweaty and you thought, not today. And you drove away, went home, ate a pint of ice cream, and then cried. So yes, I have also been the anxious skater.
Sounds like maybe you relate to that.
And also, what? Skate with people that are way better than you? You mean like when you get put on a Moxie skate team and you can barely do anything at a park and then you're like, oh, cool, now I'm at a photo shoot with estrogen?
LOL.
So yes, I have been put in these odd situations and I have learned how to cope with them through sink or swim scenarios.
Okay, so these sink or swim scenarios, out of those, what would you derive as some advice that you could give to Amber?
Kill your imposter syndrome.
How do you do that? What kind of murder weapon works?
An icicle.
An icicle, because the evidence melts.
Away. Yes.
The perfect crime.
Really, it's just repetition. And it's even knowing that, like, even the best skaters in the world fall and are still learning tricks. And they're just out there trying to do the same thing you're doing. It definitely helps to have a friend that skates as well.
Yeah.
Someone with you to encourage you, to just put your headphones in sometimes, to go into your own world. But the repetition really, because I feel for me, my struggle was like, I don't know when it's my turn. And then there were a couple times like I went to a park and like I understood like how to inch forward and then just roll into the bowl without like snaking someone. And once you realize like skate park rules, like you realize you have more ownership and you belong, and then you start feeling like, oh, we're all just here trying to learn.
Yeah, I think for me, I tend to get really overwhelmed, and I think it's really important to know yourself and know what you like and what you don't like when it comes to your friends encouraging you. So, like, I'm really good with my friends encouraging me up till a point. And then once that point hits, it's like you encourage me a little bit more and I'm going to be like, shut up. And
I do that all the time.
And just like not work anymore. Like I just shut down. But you have to communicate that. So if you're a person who wants people to be like, no, come on, just do it. When you're like at the skate park or you're with other better skaters than you, then you should communicate that. Or if you're the kind of person that's like, no, just leave me alone in this corner of the park for a little bit. And then later I'll show you or I'll record it and then I'll show you that recording. Then like communicate that with other people, because most skaters I know, even people who are really good, are all anxious.
Yeah. Well, because roller skating's scary.
Yeah, it's
and
kind
dangerous.
Of
and people don't realize that, like, that's why everyone, because it's like, especially if you have people that are like, okay, they're more talented or like they've been doing it longer, like they're still trying to learn things that are scary, like I'm gonna do a backflip, and you're like, what? But for them, that's hella scary. That's why you'll see people that never wear helmets. Like when you see them put a helmet on, you're like, oh shit, something's going down.
Like, for real.
But I don't know, like it's one of those things you just really gotta talk it out. You can have a mantra for yourself, like tell yourself that I belong here, everyone else is here to do the same thing that I am. Like, I am strong, I can do this, like whatever you need to do to just kind of trick yourself into doing it. And then if you realize that you're kind of spinning out when you're already there and you feel like you're about to have an anxiety attack, just go somewhere by yourself, like in the shade or something, and do some breathing exercises and maybe call someone that you care about. And then when you feel better, like roll back in.
Yeah, I think another approach as well is to think about the positive emotions that you get from roller skating instead of focusing on the specific thing that you're doing in that moment. So if you're like freaking out and you're at the skate park, you can think about like, oh, skating brings me so much joy in general. I feel free when I'm skating and I really like that, and remember that instead of thinking like, I'm at the skate park for the first time, or I'm at the skate park with all these people who are better than me, and focusing on that might help shift your perspective. Like, oh, I'm just doing something and I'm having an experience that I really enjoy, as opposed to like, I have to do these things.
Or just go really early and then like leave before it gets too people-y. Or Casey, Mylan, and Moxie said something really good, and it's to go early and not leave when people come in. But if you're already there early and skating, people will start to trickle in, and so you'll say hi and they'll say hi and they'll slowly get more crowded. But since you're already there and grounded, it's less frightening than when you approach a skate park and there's already 30 people there.
That's so true. What a good point.
Yeah, when she said that, I was like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense.
That makes so much sense.
I'll purposely not like wait too long to go to a party sometimes, because like walking into a full room where everyone turns as soon as you open the door freaks me out. So I'd rather be one of the earlier people, because then I feel more comfortable like with seeing people come in. So it's the same concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I hope we answered your question.
Yeah, I hope we answered your question. Let's think of some bad ways to cope with anxiety. Drink anxiety.
I would say take a shot of espresso and then down a Red Bull really fast, and then do a bunch of jumping jacks to get your heart pumping really, really fast.
And then take a shot of tequila. And then put on a blindfold, spin around 10 times, and then take it off and walk into a skate park.
and then approach the deepest part of the bowl, and then just do a Dita drop right
I was
in.
going to say that. I was going to say, and then to say and do a Dita death drop. Oh my God, it's so bad. Yeah, don't do any of those things.
Yeah. Or do it. Who knows?
I mean, whatever.
Sink or swim.
Whatever floats your boat. Thank you again so much for sending in that question, Amber. If you want to have your question answered on our podcast, send an email in letter format to dearskatedate@gmail.com, and your letter might be read and answered pretty poorly.
And how?
And how?
So in episode 2, we asked y'all if anyone knew any groups out there that were skate groups that were doing something for the community, like a way to give back, like in their own backyard, and we got a response. So Karen from Canada emailed us, says, "Hi, Shove and Rebel. I appreciated your podcast this week. You asked for us to email in any info we had on black skating programs. Here in Vancouver, Canada," maple syrup, "there is a IPOC skaters alliance called Bad Bounce." Ooh, sounds
Bad Bounce. I love
it. It's new, capital letters, new. The derby community here is tight, so they had a great run at their initial fundraiser with the funds going towards paying for event entry for BIPOC folks and purchasing loaner gear, awesome,
That's
and
awesome.
permanent gear for BIPOC people in need. The founders are some capital letters amazing derby skaters and wannabe RB dance skaters who offer free instruction at the events. That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So
Bad Bounce.
love to
Check
hear
them
that.
out if you are in Canada.
Yes. One day. I've always wanted to go to Canada, actually.
I've never been to Canada.
Interesting. I
I've
feel
seen-
like that's somewhere you would go.
Yeah, it's always had less allure to me than all the other places that I have to, like, travel super far for. I've seen Canada. I went to Niagara Falls, and I could see on the other side of Niagara Falls. I was like, Canada.
I heard it's really wet there.
At Niagara Falls?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, another thing that we wanted to say is hey, what's up? Thank you so much to
Jasmine MS.
who gave us feedback on our podcast on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate you, Jasmine.
Thanks for the 5 stars.
If you want us to say your name on the podcast, all you have to do is give us feedback on Apple Podcasts.
Yep. Go, Jasmine. It's your birthday.
We
It's your
gonna
birthday.
party like it's your birthday. We're not gonna like it's your birthday.
We don't guarantee a horribly sung song each time, but we do appreciate your feedback, peeps.
Yeah, it kind of depends on what time of night we're recording this.
I almost want to be like on Why Won't You Date Me?
Why won't
And be
you
like
date
whoever
me?
leaves the weirdest message, but that would go horribly
That
wrong.
would be really weird. And we should not do that. Yeah. We're trying to get people to listen to our podcast. We're not trying to get people to be like, Oh my gosh. So that's pretty much it for today.
That was such a good date, babe. I had so much fun.
Thank you. I had so much fun too.
I feel like we had some really deep conversations. Like there were moments you almost cried, and I love the feeling of vulnerability.
I love going on dates when I'm vulnerable.
It's crazy how 2 women in a queer relationship have gone on this many dates and not even married yet.
That is pretty crazy.
Wow.
Wow. I feel like y'all will just have to keep tuning in to see what happens on the next date.
Exactly.
So strap on those skates and roll to your favorite podcast outlet and find us there
That was
for date
so
number 5.
cute, babe. And random. And that's why I love you.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.